I want to read more. I have always appreciated a good story, and I was a voracious reader growing up. I ran out of things to read, so I read an entire set of Encyclopedia Britannica and a Merriam-Webster dictionary. This was a point of pride in my life when I was small, so you can just imagine how my life went, and you'll probably be pretty close. But as time has gone on and I've become an adult and I've had adult responsibilities, the time that I have spent reading has come down. And to be fair, there is not as much of my life that I want to escape as when I was devouring books at that rate. But I used to really enjoy reading, and I still enjoy reading, and I would like to do it more because some of the things that I'm doing with my life right now are not as fulfilling as reading and writing. I am not the kind of person who has free time. There is not any time in my day that I don't fill up with something. If I have downtime, I will be doing something, even if it is just active rest. Although I do need to force myself to rest more often than I do because I don't get enough rest, and I think that it shows a little bit. I have some rough edges that a little more sleep could help polish up, if you know what I mean. Reading more for me is not about the numbers. It is about enriching my life and choosing to do things that I enjoy, and also about the intrinsic understanding of story structures that come with reading a lot. As a writer, you have to have that basis. You have to have the experience to draw on. People say, write what you know. And part of that is writing what you know in your real life. But also, when you read, you glean things from other people. It's like you're taking a shortcut. You're experiencing their writing through them and the story that they have told. And you really can learn a lot about a story structure, about the formula of a given genre through reading it. If you have just a little bit of, active processing going on while you're reading it, or even afterward, after you've read your 15th Poirot novel, you kind of know the vague formula of how things are going to go, and it's comforting, right? So I want to get back to that comfort. I want to get back to that, instinctive story feeling that comes with reading a lot. And so in order to do that in my life, which I have already filled with many things, I'm going to have to take something out. I can't cram more reading into the same amount of hours and still get the same amount of stuff done. So something's got to give. I've got to sacrifice something. And I know that social media is necessary in today's world, especially if you're trying to make something of yourself on the internet, which that's what this is. You have to be present on social media in order to do that. But I am finding that I spend far too much time doom scrolling on Facebook or scrolling through TikTok or Pinterest when that time could be better put towards something else, like reading. That is not to say that I spend the entirety or even the bulk of my day on social media, but the moments that I could free up would be really easy to just take the social media away and put a book in my hand. I'm going to do things to facilitate reading more, and we'll talk more about the opportunities that I'm going to have to replace social media with reading. First, though, I would like to talk about my roadblocks, the things that have kept me in particular from reading with the same fervor as I have done in the past. We have already talked about how I fill my time. There is no free time. Time is very expensive. And so I try to fill my time with doing things, making things, the inevitable cycle of cleaning things, especially in a house that has other people living in it, and how the thing that is most unfulfilling about the time that is filled up is with the social media. So that's an easy roadblock, and I'm hoping that that's going to be a really easy exchange to take the thing that is in my hand that is unfulfilling and put something fulfilling in my hand instead. The next roadblock that I have is boredom. I have allowed myself in the past to DNF books. DNF is a BOFI, a bunch of friggin' initials. That means did not finish. And a lot of people who are heavy into reading, BookTube, BookTok, all of the book spaces, Book Tumblr, maybe? They use it as a verb. I DNF'd this book. And I have allowed myself to DNF too many books. I put them aside. And then I feel guilty that I didn't finish that book. And that guilt kind of overshadows the next book. And that it's a cycle. It's a downward spiral. And I'd like to be on an upward spiral. So even if I think it's one of the worst books that I've read in a really long time, side eye, I'm going to try to finish every book that I start. And if I find that that is a detriment to reading books rather than having the intended effect, then I will change and pivot and do something else. And I guess allow myself to DNF more books. But I think there is value in reading a book that is not necessarily enjoyable through to its end as a writer, particularly, so I can pick out, this is what I did not like about this book. This is what I want to avoid in my own writing. So while an unpleasurable book is more work than leisure, I still think it's important. Unless it's like super duper terrible, egregious, hitting on a bunch of traumas. I think it is important to read bad things as well as good. Focus is another roadblock. I think I'm going to try having different books in different spaces. I will try to have a nonfiction book that I'm reading along with a fantasy and a mystery, maybe throw in a little sci-fi in there and just have a different book at a different place. Some places can have more than one book depending on, where they are, how much room I have to dedicate to a stack of books that I'm reading so that I can be one of those people who's currently reading 4 or 5 different books. I don't know if that is going to be the way that it actually pans out, but I would like to give myself lots of opportunities. If I'm in the mood for a mystery, I should be able to read a mystery and not have to finish the high fantasy novel before I start on the mystery. Because if I start on Robert Jordan, I swear I've heard, okay? I've heard things, and I'm pretty sure that that is not a book series that I'm just going to be able to pick up and just go straight through without breaking it up with some amuse-bouches of other genres. Just a caution for anyone who wants to come down into my comments and tell me, oh my God, you need to read this. You've never read Robert Jordan? What is wrong with your life that you have never read Robert Jordan? And I will tell you the reason that I haven't read Robert Jordan is that I don't want to spend 15 pages on the description of a hill. I understand that the world is rich, but now is not the time in my life for Robert Jordan. Maybe someday. I think that's all of the roadblocks, aside from the pathological demand avoidance. So one of the things I'm going to do is with these different genres of books, I'm going to have books in different places. I'm going to have 2 to 3 books at my bedside table, and that will probably be the place where I have whatever nonfiction book it is that I am reading at the time. Probably something about story structure or something like that, or maybe some kind of self-help, because boy, learning to unmask in your adult life is pretty hard. And, if they just had a guide for that kind of stuff, that would be pretty good to read. The place that I think that I'm going to get the most reading done, because I think that's the place where I do the most scrolling, is, forgive me for saying this, but the bathroom. Going to the bathroom wastes valuable time that could be filled devouring some kind of knowledge or some kind of story. And I think that will be the place that most incidental reading gets done. So I'm going to have 1 or 2 books that live in each bathroom, so that when answering the call of nature, there is something to do the distraction and give the dopamine. I also have our cozy little living room where I will probably keep only 1 book, because normally when I'm in the living room area, we're having family time, we're watching somebody play a game, we're watching something together, and that's mostly knitting and sewing time. And it's really hard to knit and sew and have a book and pay attention to other people. And I have not found any solution that lets me have a book that I don't have to hold. So I probably won't get a lot of reading done in my living room, but I'm going to put a book there. It might become the staging area for the next book that moves to the bedside, because I feel like most of my reading is going to be done in the before sleep time, because that is another time when I tend to spend some more time on my screen. I like to do the New York Times puzzles before I sleep, but that does tend to lead to checking and clearing notifications, which then leads to some scrolling, and that does hurt my sleep. So we're going to take the phone and we're going to not utilize it. I won't be doing research at night. I won't be shopping at night. I won't be clearing my notifications at night. I've really got to get over the thing where I have to clear my notifications. I just need to accept that there are going to be numbers on my phone and just stop being at the beck and call of every notification that I get. Speaking of notifications, I have some. Another thing that I want to do that I'm told really helps with motivation and determination is marking my streak. Every day that I read 15 minutes, I want to mark off on my planner. And every day that I finish a book, I want to mark off on my planner. I will try and see if having that visible streak helps me with not faffing off about the thing that I want to be doing, which is reading. In between making time and facilitating reading was books everywhere, because my TBR pile is taller than I am. There's a lot of books in it. I love books, but my TBR pile is very high. In addition to that, I would like to have just a little bit more accountability. And so I have the Storygraph app on my phone now. In the past, I had kept an okay sort of log of what I had read on Goodreads, but I just don't like Goodreads. And I can't even really explain why, but I exported all my information out to the Storygraph app, and I am finding it much, much easier to make sure that I'm keeping up to date with what I've started reading, my page count of where I am in the book, and things like that. Another thing that I would like to do is start doing book reports, reviews, if you want to call them that, but just talk about the things that I have read, what I enjoyed about them, what my takeaways are, just have a little bit more accountability, the way that I used to when I was in elementary school and I was reading 2 and 3 books a day. Previous to this, I have started annotating in my nonfiction books, particularly Robert McKee's story and other books like that I am trying to glean specific information out of. Call me a heretic, but I write directly in the book. It's my book. I'm going to refer to it more than once. I might as well write directly in the book. But I think I also want to start annotating in my fiction books. And those I don't want to write directly in, because those I feel like I'm more often lending those things out, and they're not just like, this is my private study book. And so if I do any annotation with fiction books, I will probably use those clear sticky notes and write on top of those so that I'm not writing directly in the book. Maybe use some flags. We'll see how I feel about that, if that gives me sensory issues or not. I don't know. It will require experimentation. And the last thing that I'm going to do, that I would suggest that you do if you used to read but you don't anymore, is to start slowly. Yeah, 52 and 52 sounds great. A book a week shouldn't be that difficult. But like I said in my 2025 planning video last week, I am not at my best every day, and planning to be at my best every day is just disappointment waiting to happen. And so my goal this year is to read 12 books, not necessarily a book a month, just 12 books within the year of 2025. And anything that I read over that, gold star, gravy, icing on the cake. Minimum 12 books. I don't care about page count. I don't care about word count. I care about making sure that I read more. And I'm going to pat myself on the back for every book I finish. And I think it's reasonable to think that I can finish 12 books in a year, seeing as the average American reads 12 books in a year. And I know that that's average because most people don't read anything, and the people who read lots. But I'm pretty sure that I can do 12 books a year and not disappoint myself. So that's what I'm going to do. If you want to read more, you can take anything that I have said and apply it to your own life. If you have tips and tricks and hacks on how to get yourself to read more, please come into my comments and let me know, because I desperately want to get back into the voracious reading and the appreciation of story and world building and characterization. And I want to be uplifted and crushed and so angry that I feel like I want to throw the book across the room. You know what I'm talking about. So yeah, give me your tips and tricks. Are there any things that I said that you haven't implemented in your book reading that you're going to try and do? Let me know. We are here in this channel to craft a life worth living, and I'm doing my very best to make that happen for me this year in 2025, the year of delight redux. And I hope that you also can craft a life worth living. Please remember to drink some water so that you're hydrated, eat something delicious, and do a little something to feed your soul. Thank you for taking care of my friend, and I promise I will do my very level best to take care of yours.